that these were not random numbers, but the number of employees who worked in the building, his co-workers. Even his own number, 427, had a place on the wall. But why a setup so elaborate, he asked. Was this simple surveillance, or something even more? And as if in answer to his question, the wall slid open before him, revealing the ultimate truth of the situation. An enormous control panel, Stanley discovered, but not one that controlled simple machinery. Buttons were labeled with emotions. Happy, sad. Levers and knobs controlled actions. Walking, eating, doing work, or watching TV. Every input on this device monitored not the functions of a machine, but of a human being. And the reality began to sink in. Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a monitor, had been under someone's control, always at the mercy of this machine. Could this have been the only reason employee number 427 was content with his boring job? That a machine had altered his emotions to accept it blindly? He began to feel an unbridled rage, and at the peak of his anger, something happened. A spark. Stanley looked up and saw the generator overhead, still providing some small amount of power to the machine, keeping it alive. And knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running, Stanley moved to the ladder in the back of the room and began to climb towards the rafters.
Ich weiß noch, dass ich letztes Mal Disable gemacht hatte. Ich glaube, ich hatte Disable. Ja, natürlich hatte ich Disable. Dann werde ich dieses Mal
The higher Stanley climbed, the closer he felt to freedom, the further from enslavement.
Also ich werde die Power von dem Ding ein bisschen hochschrauben. Und dann gucken wir mal, was passiert. Also wir werden das mit hier engage.
Oh, Stanley. You didn't just activate the controls, did you?
Ja.
After it kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself? Is that what you wanted? Control?
Ja.
Stanley. Stanley. I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were meant to let it go, turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you have. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized that he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex.
Okay.
How long until detonation then? Oh, let's make it say, 2 minutes.
Was?
Now, this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? Go ahead. Play with those controls all you like. The real controls are where I'm sitting. Did you really ever believe you held any power? Did you not think I knew what I was doing? When I erased your co-workers and turned off the machine, I was offering you freedom, an escape. I didn't have to do that. I've run this story many times, and I don't always set you free. Sometimes you just sit there, day after day after day, doing your job forever, and then dying alone. But when I actually give you the freedom to control your own actions, it's not enough. I let you go, and you trapped yourself just the same. You just weren't made to handle this sort of responsibility, I'm afraid. But you know what you were made for? Pushing buttons. You get it now? Oh, I'm enjoying this. Tell you what, I'll throw some extra time on the clock just because I'm having so much fun. There we go. You see, I want to watch you for every long second you try to puzzle this out. After all, it should make sense, right? The timer, the nuclear detonation, the mysterious facility, it's all here. This is a video game. Except for one thing there, hero. You've got no weapon, no vehicle. You don't even know where you're going. When you saw that timer, you just instinctively started trying to find an exit, didn't you? In fact, I bet you're still looking for a way out. I bet you're clicking on everything in this room, trying to open doors or vents or something and solve the puzzle. As though this game has a solution, as though it can be won. That timer is not a catalyst to keep things moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death.
Was soll
This
ich
is not a
machen?
challenge. It's a tragedy. It's the moment when the hero realizes that despite his best efforts, he is powerless to his environment. And then he lets go. He surrenders. And he dies.
Was?
30 seconds, Stanley. 30 seconds. Until a boom. And then nothing. No ending to this story, just you dying. I suppose you could have gotten an actual ending if you played along, but that just wouldn't have been your style, would it? Instead, you'll perish knowing that the only choice you made here was to turn on that machine and to start this timer. But you won't be alone, because I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here to watch every second of your inevitable life from the time we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
What the fuck? Okay. Ja, also das war die Enden, die ich jetzt alle herausfinden konnte mit einfachem Ausprobieren von der Stanley Parable. Und jetzt werde ich ein bisschen gucken im Internet, ob ich vielleicht noch andere Enden eventuell finden kann, die ich euch dann zeigen kann, okay? Bis gleich. Okay Leute, wie ihr sehen könnt, stehe ich wieder direkt vor dem Fahrstuhl, und zwar, weil es hier noch einen weiteren Weg geht, weil letztes Mal sind wir nach oben gefahren.
Stanley was so bad at following
Aber
directions,
es
it's
gibt
incredible
auch-
he wasn't fired years
Ich
ago.
speichere jetzt einfach mal.
Maybe this is why
Die
everyone
Möglichkeit,
had left. No one wanted to be around
Trotzdem zu
someone as
fahren.
bad at listening as him. And
Aber,
since he was
ja.
walking into the middle of nowhere and thus
Ihr werdet
ruining
schon
the
sehen.
entire story,
Also ich weiß
Stanley
jetzt nicht, was-
decided that he would punish himself. So
Komm.
when he came to the elevator and the doors opened,
Hm.
he stepped inside and pushed the button to go up.
Oh, wir gehen nach unten.
Oh, Stanley. You know,
Stanley.
you really aren't going anywhere, and I don't say that deceitfully. I truthfully mean that there isn't a story down here. The story was back up where I told you to go in the first place. Right now, you're just running around looking at empty halls. And frankly, that's perhaps even more infuriating for me. So why don't you throw me a bone, give me a chance, and just let me tell the story I want to tell, hmm?
Nein. Nö, nein, danke. Wirklich nicht, echt nicht. Also. Wir haben heute auch noch Besseres zu tun. I think. Lass mal knacken.
Now listen carefully. This is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Wir machen ein Quick Save.
Good, good. Now, if you don't mind, there's something I'd like to show you. But to do that, I think it would be best for us to start from the beginning. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Das sind wir.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. His job pushing buttons demanded little of him, so there was not much of himself to give, and in this way Stanley's job felt less and less like his every day. But if buttons need pushing one day, it means they'll need pushing the next and then the next. So without question or judgment, Stanley continued to do what the screen told him. One keystroke flowed into another keystroke, flowed into his ride home, flowed into dinner, flowed into waking up, flowed into going to work, and here he was again. Stanley was typing out a complete sentence that said absolutely nothing at all. If in reality no one ever actually disappeared from the office, and Stanley never got the opportunity to make a decision, to choose which path he wanted to take, would his life still have any meaning? Perhaps when we long for something deeply enough, these hopes and fantasies become so strong in our minds that we truly believe that we're there, controlling that person and living that adventure. To manipulate your own thoughts and emotions might mean freedom from a self-imposed prison, but these delusions can be fatal to those who can't tell the difference. And so, Stanley asked, if that door never opened, if I'll never be able to walk away from those people and from these buttons, is this life still worth experiencing? Am I actually happy? Stanley answered this question by pushing a button. Then he pushed a button, and then he pushed a button. Then he pushed a button. Then he pushed a button.
Mies. Ja, okay, kurze Unterbrechung. Okay. Das war sehr, sehr interessant. Mehr oder weniger. Weil wir sind tot, aber wir haben ja noch eine blaue Tür.
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
Nein. Als ob ich ein Sprecher...
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
Nein.
All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? It's nothing. No one's even built this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. It's just a bunch of skybox and dev wall textures. That's it. Is this what you were looking for? Was it worth ruining the story I'd written out for you?
Ja.
I put a lot of time into that, and now well, here you are now, just looking at nothing. To think that that's all I needed to make in the first place, just a whole lot of nothing, and you would have been happy. Well, hey, you still need a little something to do. Am I right? Here, let me load up another map. See if there's something in here that'll keep you occupied. Ah, here's one. Let's boot this up. We'll see if you like it.
Okay. Finde ich gerade sehr krass. Hey.
Well, Stanley, is this any better? I don't know why it would be. This map wasn't even made for you. At least I created a world specifically with you in mind. I wanted to make you a leading man. This one, well, I'm afraid you're on your own there. Stanley was fat and ugly and really, really stupid. He probably only got his job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That, or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.